guys, last video we were working on our junkyard 5.3 or the bottom end. We got cam bearings installed. We also went ahead and installed the crank, torqued down the main cap so we can check bearing clearances. Now I've gone ahead and ordered a new set of bearings to kind of give us a little bit more clearance on that crank. I did double check our rods as well, so I got new rod bearings coming for that. But while we are waiting on those bearings, we are going to be working on what's left of our heads. Now, as you can see, I've got one head cleaned up. We got new springs, retainers, it's got new seals. All the valves have been removed and lapped in. Everything's been cleaned, reinstalled, and checked to make sure it holds. And everything checked out good. So that head, as of right now, is ready to be installed on that engine. So I saved this one so we can go over this. I kind of want to show you guys what happens or what kind of condition that head was in before it looked like that. By going over the steps I did with this one. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out too, because I'm pretty sure a lot of heads that you pull from junkyards or get off marketplace or anything like that is going to have this some kind of issue like this, especially if it's a high mileage engine. So let me show you what we got here. All right, now this is going to be like a real easy step. A buddy of mine actually showed me this trick. What you want to do is make sure you got spark plugs in the hole to hold our WD-40. Get it up on the stand, some kind of bench or stand, so the valves, as you can see, sit somewhat level to the table. That way you get WD-40 all the way around. We're going to go ahead and fill up each one of these guys, just enough to make sure we get fluid all the way around the valves themselves. Make sure we got plenty of fluid in there. That way we get a good check. And I'm going to show you what it is doing. Now I have gone over something like this before when we rebuilt the heads to the Mustang, but figured we'll go over it again real quick. So as you can see, all of them have WD-40 sitting in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and show you guys I'm not playing around. I'm not joking. There's the springs. So all the springs are installed still. Now all I'm going to do is use an air hose. If you're wearing headphones, beware. Go right into the intake. Oh, as you can see, that one's already got a leak. But see, I'm barely pulling the trigger, and you can see all of the air bleeding by the valve. Going to the next one. That one as well. That one's not as bad, so that one should clean up actually fairly easy. Then we'll go into the last intake valve. That one's not as bad as the first two, but still definitely needs some cleanup. Now we're going to go over to our exhaust valve. A lot of blow by there. A lot on that one. That one doesn't look like it was holding very well at all. And neither that one. So you can see none of our valves are actually holding all that well. But you do have to remember the engine looked like it ran before being parked at the junkyard. It didn't look like it had any issues, no overheating, it had no water anywhere. So the surface doesn't tell me it had a blown head gasket. And you do remember, as fast as those things turn over, all the pressure is going against this side of the valve. So chances are it still ran. Probably not to its full potential, of course. But now what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and I'm going to get all these valves out, get them set up on the table, and we're going to see what the seats, show you what each one of the valves and the seats look like. So I'll be back here in a second. All right, got the head tore down. All our valves are sitting on the bench. Leftover springs, retainers are in our little bin down there. Now, Here's what each one of our valve seats looks like. Now, intake valves, I've wiped this one off. As you can see, there is just a little bit of buildup on the seat itself. As a matter of fact, there's just a little bit of buildup on the valves themselves, which means most likely that stuff probably would have blown off when we went to fire this engine up. However, look at the exhaust valves, you'll see there is a bunch of buildup on that, bunch of carbon buildup. Take it, you can wipe your finger across it, and you can see, oops, it is still there. It actually is not coming off just by wiping. And then our exhaust valve seats are the same way. Get in there, see if we can't wipe some of that stuff off. And you can see a lot of that stuff is left behind. Now, a lot of that will clean up with lapping compound. But before I do that, I just want to show you what they look like. So there's this exhaust valve. This intake looks fairly decent. Little stuff right there. As you can see, wipes off. No big deal. Same with that one. So intake seats look fairly good. It's the exhaust seats that we would have had a little bit of a sealing issue with. But all those look like they'll clean up fairly well. But before I start lapping in those valves, I want to take the head over to our parts washer over there so we can clean up all of that gunk inside each one of these intake runners. There's a lot of buildup from years and years of running. Bad gas, leaky seals, all that stuff. And I really don't want a bunch of that flying around while we're lapping in our valves. So I'm going to pop this head in that tank, get it cleaned up, get most of that stuff out of the runners, out of the intake runners. We'll get the exhaust runners cleaned up. We'll get this surface cleaned up as well. Get it looking somewhat like the other head looked. As clean as I possibly can get it. And then we'll go ahead and put it back up on this bench and start lapping in the valves. And then I'll show you guys how to test them to make sure they seal. So I'll go ahead and get myself set up, get this thing cleaned up. Let's get to it. All right, got our head all cleaned up, got it sitting up here on the bench as you can see. Also went ahead and just welded some nuts on the end of our broken studs there. Got those removed as well. Now let's show you guys what our runners look like. So if you remember how much gunk was in there, then you'll see that we actually cleaned up pretty decent. I mean, it's not 100%, but it is definitely good enough. You remember how dark the head was all the way around, so it actually cleaned up really nice. It might be even a little bit better than the other head. So that's definitely worth a couple horsepower. I know, laugh at my own jokes, right? All right, but we got it cleaned up. We got it sitting on the bench now. Got them in our little stands. So what we're going to do now is I'll get set up. That way we can start lapping in our valves. And I like to use... put a little bit of lapping compound. This is 400 grit lapping compound. I don't remember where I got it. I think I got it off eBay, but you can still pick this stuff up at an R Parts store as well. Get some lapping compound, go through. I like to put it on the end of a drill, but I use a rubber hose. So goes through the head, rubber hose goes over the end of our valve stem. That way, if it decides to bind up, or if it doesn't spin as fast, it doesn't gold the end of our valve. We don't destroy our valve. It just spins on the end of the rubber. Worst case scenario, I got to cut the rubber off and replace it. That allows for a little bit of flex. So if I'm not perfectly straight, I'm not destroying our valve guide either. So, but like I said, we'll go ahead and get some lapping compound on these valves, get you set up there, and we'll go ahead and get this first one lapped in. Oh, before I do that, here's a good shot of what our valve seats look like right now. So you can see nice and shiny, a little bit of pitting. And those are the two valves we will be lapping in. So now I'll go ahead and get set up. We'll get these first two lapped in, and then I'll show you what the seats look like. So let's do it. All right, first pass is done. So now I'm going to show you what the seats look like. So here is our intake seat. As you can see, we'll go ahead and compare it to this one here, how shiny that one is. Come over here and look at this one. It's kind of a satin gray, as well as our exhaust seat. And you can see there is a couple little things left in our seat. Now all that will come out. You just got to keep lapping. Now, if you come over to this side, you'll see this is where we had our leaks, where it's nice and shiny there. Just a little low spot right in the center of the seat. You can see where it kind of touched at the very bottom here. So, but we still got that little bit of a low spot in there. And if you come over here to our intake, you'll see this one also has one as well. It's kind of a satin color there, satin gray, and then you see it start to be a little bit shiny right here. So we still got a little bit more lapping to do. All that will come out. You just got to be prepared to spend a little bit of time. Like I said, I'm using 400 grit, so it does take me a little bit. I spent probably a total of 2 minutes on each one of those valves in that little time lapse you guys just saw. So real quick. But like I said, all that will come out. I just have to repeat the process. Another little trick too, if you're doing this on your seats and you kind of have a hard time seeing, you can use a black permanent marker or a permanent marker, something that's going to stand out after you wipe all the lapping compound off to show you where any of your low spots are at. So you can do that as well. It's kind of easy because my seats are a little discolored. They're not real shiny, so I can still see it. But so now that I've got the first pass out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get myself set up. We'll go ahead and lap those two valves in again till I'm happy with all the till I'm happy that the perfections are gone or imperfections are gone. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out, come back, and then I'll show you guys what the seats look like finished. And then we'll go ahead and assemble it and test to see if it still leaks. So I'll be right back. All right, our valves are finally lapped in. I'm definitely happy with the outcome and how the seats and the valves look. So here's what we got. All right, so here's our exhaust valve. And if you remember, we had a little bit of a low spot in there. That is gone. And it is one uniform color, nice and straight line going all the way around the seat. And our intake seat looks the same as well. If you remember, we had the low spot in there. Now here's the edge of our intake valve. Nice one uniform color going all the way around. Don't see any dimples or anything like that. And here is our exhaust valve. All those little imperfections are gone. It is nice and uniform going all the way around. So now I'll get those valves installed into the head. I'm going to install the factory springs as well. Now, I know on the other head we have upgraded springs and stuff, and I will be putting those in these heads. But I want to show that they'll hold using the factory stuff, because we know if it holds using factory springs, then it'll definitely hold with our new springs, which have a much higher pressure. So that's why I want to put the stock ones in. If they hold there, I know we're good to go. So that's what I'm going to do. Go ahead and get our valves installed in the head, get the factory springs and everything installed on those valves, and then I'll be right back and we'll do our test. All right, valves are in, springs are in. We got it set up. So now we got to get some WD-40 in here and well, see if it seals. There you go. Go ahead and grab our WD-40. See, it's nice and level. Make sure it's flat-ish. Yep, pretty good. Go ahead and get some WD-40. Like I said, just enough to go around the valves. All right. Looking pretty good. Go ahead and grab our little air hose here. Now, if you remember how bad our intake leaked, so we got nothing coming out of the intake now. There we go. Get right up against the bottom of that valve. And that's, yeah, that'll work. Go ahead and come on over to our exhaust here. Go ahead and put it right up against the bottom of that valve, like I just did the intake. There we go. Now that's actually holding up pretty good. And the little pinholes of air that you did see come through, those are fine. That's, we had this guy right up against the valve seat, and you will see that. So, but as long as it wasn't like it was before, where it was just blowing all the fluid out of it, those will actually hold very well. So, especially once we put our higher pressure springs in it. So I'm definitely happy with the outcome of that. Now, I've got 6 more valves to do, and that's gonna pretty much take up the rest of my day on this head. So I am gonna end this video right here. I will put a link to my cam and valve spring kit that I ordered for this engine in the description. I will also put a little link to this nifty little tool. Now I'm kind of using it a little different. I guess these are supposed to come up from the bottom side and you got to turn it in with a nut, but I just grabbed the bolt, go from the top side as you guys saw in the video. It's way faster. So, but I will put a link to that little tool in the description. Definitely put a link to our valve spring kit, our cam and valve spring kit. So, hope this helps some of you guys out. Hope this makes it seem it's not as intimidating. Kind of show you what you can get away with. Minimal tools. Like I said, I'm only using a hand drill, 400 grit, lapping compound, a little bit of my time. Another thing I want to mention, you do want to kind of make sure, and I didn't show it, if you set this up here, let me grab my drill real fast. Let's see if I can do it for you. Put it in your drill just nice and easy, and just kind of turn it. If there is a big bend or a drastic bend in this valve, you will see it. So check your valves too before doing this method, because you don't want to, if there's a little bend in it, you'll never get the valves flat. You'll always have a shiny spot and it'll never go away. You'll just be spinning your valves. So, again, like I said, hope this helps some of you guys out. Hope this isn't as intimidating. Again, like this is a junkyard build, right? We're just freshening it up so I can put it together, slap it in that truck of mine down there, throw a bunch of boost at it later. But anyways, again, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for watching. Hope this helps. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. And again, you guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next one.